An expedition team was making their way along a river. Sam suddenly noticed something moving under the water. The monkeys in the trees began screeching in alarm. A massive snake swam just beneath the surface. Cole suddenly shouted that something had touched him in the water. In an instant, everyone became tense and uneasy, but Bill dismissed their fear and told them to keep moving forward. Terrified, Cole rushed to the front of the group. Behind him, Ben started making strange noises to scare the others. Grace thought it was just another prank, but after so long, Ben still hadn't come back up from the water. Her heart sank, and she called out loudly for Ben. The others quickly rushed over when they heard her cries. Then came a chorus of terrified screams. Everyone turned and ran for their lives. After barely escaping, Sam trembled uncontrollably with fear. Cole exploded in anger, venting his emotions. They had never seen a snake this enormous before. One of their teammates had been swallowed whole. Cole urged everyone to turn back immediately. Against a snake like that, they were nothing more than helpless prey. Jack stepped forward to calm him down. Bill joined in, trying to reassure the group with his knowledge. He explained that they shouldn't be in danger for now. The snake had just eaten something that massive. It would take at least a week to digest. For the moment, they were safe. Grace was too frightened to continue after what happened. She decided to pack her things and head home, but Jack refused to turn back. Their mission was to collect the blood orchid, and the orchid only bloomed once every 7 years. He didn't want to wait another 7 years. Grace didn't care about that. A teammate had just lost his life, and she wanted to call off the expedition. As the two argued, Sam proposed a solution. He suggested they all return to the boat first. Once they were safe, they could discuss the matter again. Both sides reluctantly agreed. When the group set off again, they decided to take a longer detour back to the boat. They didn't encounter any further danger, but no one dared to let their guard down. Just then, John noticed something unusual on Cole's neck. He quickly stopped him and took a closer look. To their horror, a large parasite was attached to his skin. Cole panicked, thrashing around in fear. Bill rushed to restrain him from behind, urging him to stay calm. He lit a flame and held it close to the parasite. Then he pulled it off with his bare hands. Bill slowly lifted Cole's shirt. What they saw made everyone's faces go pale. Cole's back was crawling with more of those creatures. The group frantically checked themselves to see if they were infected. John took off his shoe to examine his foot. Just as he was about to put it back on, Ted snatched the shoe and tapped it against the ground. A venomous spider dropped out from inside. Ted explained that one bite from this spider could be instantly fatal. Before he could finish, Jack grabbed the spider and sealed it inside a jar. He believed that if they brought it back, their company could launch a brand new project. Meanwhile, their supporter Gordon was steering a rescue boat while drinking a beer. Suddenly, the boat jolted. The beer bottle slipped from his hand and shattered on the deck. Startled, Gordon quickly shut off the engine. He looked around, trying to figure out what the boat had just hit. When he peered into the water, he saw a giant snake gliding below the surface. In the next second, he was dragged into the water. But in the struggle, the engine was accidentally restarted. The rescue boat sped forward on its own, crashing into the rocks and exploding.
My God.
The explosion caught the attention of the expedition team. When they reached the riverbank, the rescue boat was already a pile of twisted metal. Their only hope for rescue was gone. Grace broke down and cried in despair. The entire group sank into hopelessness, but Bill urged them not to give up. He told them to gather any useful supplies they could find. John discovered a can of fuel by the river. Sam found a flashlight. Ted picked up a flare gun. They quickly gathered everything together, but they couldn't find a phone or a radio. Just then, Ted noticed some fish left behind by hunters. It meant that the local tribe lived nearby. If they could find them, maybe they could borrow a boat to escape this place. So the group set off once again. After trekking through the wilderness, they finally reached a village, but the sight before them left everyone frozen in shock. A massive snake, nearly 100 meters long, was impaled with steel spears. Its belly had been sliced open for several meters. A human body was partially exposed from inside. They assumed this was the aftermath of a deadly battle between the tribe and the snake. But no matter how hard they searched, they couldn't find any trace of the tribe, and the boats on the river were nowhere to be seen. Asking for help was no longer an option. Then Bill noticed bamboo poles floating on the water. "If there are no boats," he said, "then we'll build one ourselves." So they worked through the night. They dismantled abandoned huts and stripped them for bamboo. Each person carried the poles to the site. They tied them together tightly with ropes. Piece by piece, the raft began to take shape. Finally, they pushed it into the river. By morning, they would be able to sail away from this cursed place. Just then, Jack went to wash his face. He suddenly spotted a strange symbol carved near the well. It was the same symbol linked to the blood orchid. Excited, he quickly called everyone over. At last, they understood why the snakes here were so enormous. The snakes had been feeding on the blood orchid. Its power had kept them alive and growing stronger. This proved that Sam's theory was correct. Suddenly, Grace interrupted. She dismissed it all as nonsense. She had no intention of risking her life for a plant. John also tried to persuade Jack to let it go and return, but Jack was already obsessed. Refusing to listen to reason, he made up his mind to risk everything and collect the blood orchid himself. In the middle of the night, John searched through Jack's backpack. By accident, he found a box inside. To his surprise, it contained a handgun and a communication device. He was about to make a distress call when Jack suddenly appeared behind him. Jack explained to John that if he made the call now, their expedition would be over. The blood orchid was already within reach. They could collect samples first and then call for help. But John, who only wanted to survive, refused Jack's suggestion. Seeing John ignore him, Jack tossed a venomous spider onto his hand. The venom quickly took effect. John tried to escape, but the poison spread through his body. He was soon paralyzed and unable to move. Meanwhile, Jack carried all the supplies to the raft. Sam noticed something was wrong. She rushed to the cabin to look for John. There she found him motionless, his face pale. Sam asked what had happened, but John couldn't make a sound. Then she noticed the bite mark on his hand. At once, she realized Jack was behind this, but danger was already closing in. Sensing the situation was dire, Sam ran to warn the others. At that moment, a giant anaconda appeared before John. John wanted to call for help, but no words came out. He could only lie there helplessly. The massive snake lifted John off the ground. Everyone rushed over to save him, but when they arrived at the cabin, the snake had already swallowed him whole. Grace screamed in terror. Bill quickly lit a torch, hoping the flames would scare the snake away. As they fled toward the river, they discovered Jack had secretly taken the raft. Now everyone was left in despair. Sam then told the group that she knew the route Jack had taken to find the blood orchids. If they headed straight through the jungle, they could catch up to him and take back the raft. So once again, the group set out on their dangerous journey, but they hadn't gone far before the ground beneath them gave way. They tumbled down a steep slope. Luckily, water at the bottom broke their fall, sparing their lives. It turned out they had fallen into a hidden cave. Suddenly, Cole heard a noise behind him. Startled, he dropped his flashlight into the water. Thankfully, he managed to retrieve it in time. But just then, Ted slipped and fell into an underground river. As he struggled to swim back up, a giant anaconda rushed toward him and dragged him under. Moments later, Cole spotted Ted's flashlight floating to the surface. Terrified, Cole bolted in panic. At the same time, Sam noticed an opening ahead. The group scrambled toward it as fast as they could, but the giant snake had already tracked them down. They climbed frantically for their lives. Sam managed to crawl out first, pulling Grace to safety. Bill followed close behind, but when it was Cole's turn, his backpack got stuck in a narrow opening. The others grabbed his hands and pulled with all their strength. Just as the snake lunged at him, they yanked him out in the nick of time. Cole excitedly praised Sam, but the next second, another giant anaconda bit onto his backpack and dragged him into the jungle. Bill immediately rushed after him. When they finally found Cole, the massive snake had already wrapped its body around him, pinning him to a tree. Just as Cole was about to be devoured, Bill pulled out a knife and hurled it at the snake. The attack forced the creature to release Cole, and he fell to the ground. Fortunately, Cole wasn't seriously hurt. Meanwhile, Jack had finally discovered the blood orchids. At the same time, Bill and the others managed to find the raft. But just as they were about to leave, Jack suddenly appeared, pointing a gun at them. As Bill tried to sneak an attack with his knife, Jack instantly fired a shot, forcing them to obey. He demanded they help him collect the orchids. With no choice, Sam strapped on a backpack and carefully stepped onto a narrow rope bridge. Below her, countless giant snakes slithered in the shadows. Luckily, she reached the other side safely and picked the orchids. But on her way back, the bridge suddenly snapped. Sam froze in terror. Jack ordered her to toss the backpack over, leaving her stranded on the edge of danger. Just as Jack tried to escape, Bill landed a heavy punch, knocking him down. The backpack filled with orchids tumbled over the cliff. At the same moment, the venomous spider slipped out of its jar. Already injured, Bill stood no chance against Jack's counterattack. Still desperate to retrieve the orchids, Jack shoved Bill aside and grabbed the backpack, but as he climbed back up the cliff, the spider bit him. Paralyzed instantly, Jack lost his grip and plunged into the snake pit below. As the group pulled Sam to safety, another giant snake slithered up from beneath them. Everyone stumbled back in fear. Grace quickly grabbed a fuel canister to draw the monster's attention. The snake bit down on it, thrashing wildly. Cole, keeping his composure, picked up the signal gun. He fired a flare, igniting the fuel. Flames engulfed the beast, burning it in agony. The massive snake thrashed until it fell into the water. The fire triggered an explosion, blasting the pit apart. Huge boulders rained down, burying the rest of the snakes underneath. At last, the group narrowly escaped with their lives. The 4 survivors paddled their raft down the river, and finally, they managed to leave this deadly place behind.